Glamour.
Grit. Glamour.
Grit. Glamour. Grit.
So many of the women and families I know have been impacted by breast cancer. I'm forever grateful for the stories of survival and mourn with those families whose loved one lost the battle. Will you join me in supporting Texas Health's Wellness for Life mobile health program? This life-saving program provides no-cost breast cancer screenings to women who don't have insurance or access to transportation. Early detection is the key to survival. This program has proven to be a lifesaver to so many for more than 30 years. Moms, daughters, sisters, aunts, no one is immune to cancer. Will you join me in getting women access to important cancer screenings? To learn more or to make a difference with your gift, go to texashealth.org/foundation.
You guys, I am stopped all the time and I get the same question. What boots do you wear? Well, I'll tell you right now, it's an easy answer and it's always going to be the same. Tecovas. They are the comfiest boot, the best looking boot, and they last the longest. I've tried them all, trust me. There's amazing boots out there, but Tecovas takes it to the next level. Whether you're a cowboy, a longtime rancher, or a first-time boot buyer, Tecovas has the answer for you. I personally shop in the Fort Worth Stockyards location, but you can go online to tecovas.com, Tecovas.com, and check out all the boots for yourself. You won't be sorry. Trust me, as a longtime boot wearer and somebody who likes comfort on their feet as much as they like to look nice, Tecovas is the answer. So don't waste any more time. Get to tecovas.com, buy you a pair, and then show me them online so we can compare. Because I've got most of them, but I want to see you guys rocking them too. You'll thank me later. Tecovas.com. Don't waste another second.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Glamour and Grit Season 2.
Season 2. We're rocking and rolling. It's Monday Fun Day. You know what that means? We've got
Celebrity Monday.
one of our favorite people on the planet here today as well.
I am literally freaking the fuck out.
I know you are, and she has been for a long time.
This is my dream come true. Like, truly my dream come true, this guest.
Yeah, she's already changed her pants like 3 times today.
No, it is true. I am panties wet, feeling good. It is so brilliant. Okay, I just want to say she is a comedian, actress, podcast extraordinaire. Actually, a podcast extraordinaire. To be able to talk by yourself is like next level.
We're gonna get into that.
Oh, yeah.
Because
next level.
That's amazing.
Famous for her thick neck and thin ankles. Most of the time, you could find her in leopard or a sparkly pantsuit, drinking Aperol Spritz. I never even heard of Aperol Spritz till this woman. Next to her Italian stallion. She even made me want to move in with my mother. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, it is Heather motherfucking McMahan.
Let's go.
What an amazing intro. Please do not build me up that much. Oh my God.
My God. You know what's so wild, especially when you go into a podcast, you feel like you fully have stalked this person for like hours on end and you're dreaming about them. I mean, everything. So you've been on my mind, baby. You were always on my mind.
I love y'all. People don't realize we go way back, you know? I mean,
Sister.
It is kind of crazy.
And all of our friends, Tina, who's one of your best friends, is now best friends of my John, who is on the Tina tour.
Yes, John's our boy. Oh my God, small world.
So it's literally all of our people are intertwined.
Yeah.
And I wish I was as pretty as you. I feel like we could be slightly siblings.
Stop. You're like stunning. Get out of here. Honestly, mine is, I have 2 modes. It's funny when people see me out, they're either like, wow, you're so pretty, or they're like, didn't recognize you, bitch. Like, I'm either full glam or I am troll under the bridge telling you riddles for you to pass. Like, there's no casual me. Do you know what I mean? And you're a Southern girl. I feel like you're either suited and booted or you just don't leave the house.
We're beat. I literally had teachers introduce themselves at the end of the day to me. And I'm like, I dropped Molly Morgan off this morning. We've already met. Have zero recollection who I am, which is so nice. I feel like we're incognito or yes, we are full beat all the time. I mean, I remember waking up when I first met Eric and putting on a full face before he woke up.
And I'm from South Florida, so nobody wears makeup. It's like you're sweaty and sticky from the moment you wake up.
Yeah.
So I had no concept of the hot rollers and the makeup and the full fit all day, every day.
Right.
And it to this day, it's still like, okay, we've got, if it's something we're doing that day, there's Saini's like hour prep of like getting ready and making sure everything is in place, everything perfect. I roll out of bed, put jeans on, and I walk out the door, and it's just how it's been for us since day
Call
one.
it a day. That's why us.
You're from South Florida, so you're just lucky she's not on meth.
I'm grateful for that. 100%. 100%.
No, I love Eric's family, but the first time I came and visited, I was like, where's our makeup? Why are we all wearing flip-flops? I mean, I was shook to the core. I couldn't believe that people actually like went out, like did Thanksgiving without a full face.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that. It's funny too, because even when I like am doing comedy and I'm going to clubs, like I'm still in some sort of glitter jacket. Like even if I'm just warming up sets, like I'm in a full beat. I've got a hoop on.
I'm ready to go.
I'm not just throwing on a pair of like leggings and going to work on jokes. I'm like, this is a performance.
It's a job. It is feeling good.
Yeah.
All right, Eric, you ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Get to it.
Let's go. I mean,
Go, baby.
so are you in the middle of something right now? Are you touring right now? What's happening this second?
So it's kind of weird. I took a little break this summer. I wrapped up tour in May and I took the summer off, which I haven't taken a full summer off in a minute. And as an artist, it's kind of this weird thing where you feel so guilty. You crave the time to just be alone with your own thoughts. And then when you are alone with your own thoughts in your house, you're like, oh, what the fuck's going on? So I'm about to go do a big show at the University of Mississippi, my alma mater. And then I'll start doing clubs again and work a new hour. But no, I got to start from scratch. It's crazy.
Now, are you going to start filming? I think I heard on Absolutely Not filming a movie in September. Are we still doing that?
I'm supposed to, but you know how the business goes. Like it was supposed to be June, then it was July, then it was August, then now it's September. Who the fuck knows if they have financing? Like it's one of those things, I mean, this is why it's so hard to tell anybody what you're doing because you don't know. You're like, tomorrow I could get cut from this thing. I have no idea.
Oh, story of our life. I feel like we have packed up our house so many times and a series got canceled. And we're like, well, I guess we're extending our lease again. Here we go.
That's the nice thing about stand-up is as long as I can put asses in seats, I can control it. The TV and film world is just so frustrating because it's up to the whim of like a million different people making decisions. It's with stand-up, I can just go tell people, hey, I'm performing here tonight and put asses in seats.
What an amazing, God, I'm so jealous of that. Like, but you've obviously gotten to that point where like there's been so much struggle and like hoping asses would be in seats that weren't for probably such a long time. And now you just literally put out some tweets and say a couple of hellos and like people just show up. That has to be like the most securing thing as an artist to feel and to like experience, know that like, oh, this is like, they're going to be there. Like this is all going to work out.
Well, you hope that they're going to be there. And I mean, listen, I have been struggling with like so many feels of just when I took the time off this summer, I saw my other friends who were just starting summer tours and I'm like, well, should I be touring? And I called my agent, panicked and sweating. And they were like, Heather, you just did like 4 years straight. It's okay to take off June and July, like fucking relax. And also I'm like, I'm sick of myself. Like I got to go out and live and get some new material. I mean, I don't know, as a stand-up, we're always kind of self-loathing. Like, it's great that people are fans, but I'm like, does anybody give a fuck anymore? I don't know.
I give a fuck.
When you're in public and you're like, out and about and people see you and they expect this, they expect to laugh. They expect to like get this personality. Do you find yourself still always wanting to put on the show and feeling like a little bit of pressure of like, oh, I still have to make people laugh when I see them in public? Or is it just like you separate the two? Is it easy for you to?
Honestly, I'm pretty much a silly, goofy person, like real talk.
At all times.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's a job to make people laugh. Like that is what I love to do. But it is funny. People love to come up to me when it's like mid-chew. Like I am just housing a Chipotle burrito bowl. And I've got barbacoa like all over me. They're just like, can you get a photo? And I'm like, can I swallow? People never see me out like looking glamorous, shopping in Chanel. I'm just sweating in an Old Navy somewhere in a strip mall by myself, looking for clothes that fit, But yeah, you do feel a little pressure. But, listen, it's a privilege.
Yeah. Was it always that way for you? I mean, were you like in your yearbook in high school, was it like always making people laugh, like most likely to be a comedian? Like, were you always on that trajectory?
Yes, my in like high school, my senior superlative was like wittiest, and that to me,
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I'd rather be the funniest person, than most likely to be Miss America any day of the week. And it's so embarrassing, and I've told the story a couple times, but my high school yearbook quote was live from New York at Saturday night. That is the most mortifying thing on the planet. But I've in my mind, my dream was always to be on SNL. In my mind, I have like worked out this monologue. It's already written. All the sketches are written for SNL. I've got friends who are on the show now. And I'm like, y'all, when you call me to host, like, you don't have to do any work that week. I already have the wigs, the costumes are steamed, ready to go. And I just I like envision myself showing this photo of the senior quote, with my senior yearbook photo, like live from New York. It's Saturday night, and that being a part of the bit. And I do believe that you have to like speak things into existence. So 20 years ago, I was trying to speak it into existence. They haven't called me yet, but they will.
Yes, they will. Why haven't they? It still blows my mind because when I first found you, so much of your act was characters, which I wanted to be on SNL so bad. Molly Shannon, like back in the day when it was original characters. I mean, everyone was coming from like Chicago. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
There was nothing like it. I mean, sometimes you'll say something and I'm like, oh my God, that is Chris Farley, which is the love of my life.
The greatest compliment I can get is when people compare me to Chris Farley. And I get it. They're like, is this a female Chris Farley? And I'm like, I thought you'd never ask.
And it's just the tonality and the way you can throw yourself and you do this low voice every now. And I'm like, it gives me goosebumps. I mean, Eric always knows, like, if I was going to leave him for somebody, it would have been Chris Farley. If he would have met me.
She said that since the day I met her.
He's the love of my freaking life. No, you are so brilliant when you come to. Was it hard? Because being like an actor, you always did all these characters. Then it's like, okay, I'm going to start exposing me and like who I am. And like even the loss of your father, being able to like do it. Like I was diagnosed with melanoma and I was the type, I'm like, we were in line at security and I told my mom, I was like, do you want me to pull the C card?
Yeah.
And like the cancer card. And my mom was like, that's not funny. And because we didn't know what state, like I use that type. I'm like, if you can't laugh, you got to join him. Was that so vulnerable to you to being like, okay, now I'm just going to give myself completely out there and not just hide behind these characters?
You guys, if you haven't yet, make sure you get on La Pulga Tequila. We are so proud of it. It's here in Fort Worth, Texas, but it's created in the highlands of Jalisco, Mexico. It is my favorite tequila. It is 100% agave, meaning it's made with 3 ingredients: agave, water, and yeast. That's it. You don't need all the other junk. So many other tequilas add all this other stuff, and that's why you feel so sick the next day. La Pulga is easy, it's smooth, and it tastes the best. Not only that, but listen to this. Mexican rock music is played to agitate the yeast, so the party starts before the tequila even hits the bottle. That's the kind of party I want. La Pulga Tequila. It's smooth, it's natural, it's delicious. Try it today if you haven't yet. You'll thank me later.
You know, the women who shaped the West changed the world. And the one place on earth where you can see that and experience that is at the National Cowgirl Museum located in Fort Worth, Texas. As the only museum in the nation dedicated to telling the stories of women from all walks of life, yet with the same love for the land, the horses, and their traditions, you will not find a better place to visit to be inspired. With over 33,000 square feet of exhibition space, immersive and interactive, the National Cowgirl Museum is not to be missed. Open Tuesday through Sunday, and you can visit them online at cowgirl.net and follow along on social at Cowgirl Museum.
That's a really great question. It was interesting. I had started in stand-up and then I moved to improv and sketch just because it brought me a ton of joy. So it wasn't like a real jarring turn or a hard pivot to get back into stand-up and start telling these stories. It was interesting though that, once I had experienced heavy shit, like my dad passing of cancer and all this stuff, and I started talking about that and putting it in my act more, I did not I did not expect and see it coming how much it would resonate with people. I was just, I think it like kind of deepened my point of view and perspective. And I guess it made me more vulnerable on stage for sure. Like I never thought that would be some of the subject matter that I would talk about. Then I started talking about IVF and all this other heavier shit. And I'm like, oh, damn. But you realize that all of this is just life. It's universal, and everyone's going through this in one way or another. So, but no, here's the thing. I love doing the characters because I love playing somebody other than myself. Like there's only so many days, with the podcast and you're doing press and all this shit. And you're always like yapping about yourself. I'm like, there's nothing better than putting on a wig, changing my voice, getting a menthol cigarette and a pair of like Velcro sensible sandals and just letting it rip and being someone completely different with different problems. It's very freeing.
It is so, that's one of my favorite things in the entire world. To really do that is so hard too.
Yeah.
And people to love it and do it end all and keep going. No, I am just, the way you can just change everything about you sometimes is so amazing to me. And I was just listening to Absolutely Not, and you got emotional talking about your dad. And then you were able to flip it through. And I was like, it's so cool. I feel like that's when I first fell in love with you because I first found you on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And the following was, a micro influencer at the time. And then you just split. And I remember telling Erica, I was like, she is the funniest real. I think you made it feel like where you want to go where everybody knows your name. Mm-hmm. I think you made everybody feel like we were everybody's men, like you were our friend. And so much of the time, these celebrities seemed so out of reach to real people. And it was like we're the same age. It was like you're going through things exactly what I'm going through. Where people having IVF issues, people losing their parent. Everything was what we all were going through at that time. And I just feel like it made you so real and vulnerable, and you shared your success, shared your failures. It's so cool, and you still do that. It's so amazing to me, and I can't thank you enough because I always tell Eric, I'm like, I always say you're the biggest hustler out there.
Well,
I know I've never met somebody. You are nonstop and going in different avenues. You don't take no for an answer, and you're a star.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it. The funny thing is like, I feel like in this business, you're only as good as your last gig, right? So
100%.
I had last year was such a gangbuster year for me. And then I was like wrapping up tour and I was, co-hosting the red carpet for the Emmys and like all of this shit was happening. And then I finished tour and I was sitting at home alone with my own thoughts in June. And I was like, all right, so what's next? And I really panicked this summer. And, I was just like, oh God, like I'm not doing enough. And it was like, I have had to find the, I guess the confidence and just the ability to be okay and like the where I'm at. And it's like Everybody ebbs and flows. And like, everyone's like, what's next? I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is next. I'm trying to sell 2 new TV shows in a industry right now that nobody knows what the fuck's going on. I'm going to start touring again. I'm doing this big cruise in April. Like these things are happening, but you do kind of feel like you're only as good as your last show. And my last show is in May. So I'm like sweating right now in my office in my basement, just like, what's next? You guys get it. Like you're in the biz. It's no one knows what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. No, and you just hope. You sit there and you pray. Wait, I need to talk about this cruise for a second. Yeah. I am dying. How did that come about? A cruise, that's everybody's dream is to, that is Joan Rivers to a T right there. Is a Joan Rivers cruise, a Heather McMahan cruise. I feel like that is when you know you've made it.
Well, it was interesting. I'd always be at like the meet and greets after the shows and people are like, when are we doing a big trip? When are we doing a trip? When are we doing a girls trip? And I realized like, obviously there are a ton of dudes that follow me, but it is, if you go to a show, it's a strong, feels like a sense of like almost like a giant sorority of just unhinged women all on like, hormones, Ozempic, birth control, just like
all decked out with like leopard print, and and then there was me in the line with all of those women. Sadie took me with her on her girls' night, and just, not to interrupt you, but I was like, oh, okay, I see how this night's gonna go. Yeah. Not expecting to feel any way about this show other than get to have fun with Sainty and her friends. But I had never freaking laughed harder in my entire life just hearing the other side of, and that made me a fan. So I was like, I'm going to keep seeing these lines and more guys are going to start showing up because as soon as the wife brings the dude, he's going to laugh his ass off. And I wanted to go and bring my friends the next time with their wives. So I was like.
No, he was crying. And I was so happy because when you take your husband like a partner to something, you're like, oh, I hope you like this as much as I like it. Yeah. And I was like, he was dying. And I think people don't realize that so much of the time with comedy. And it's not just like inside jokes that only your fans would know.
Oh, no, it's like topical. It's like being married, trying to, go through life. It is funny. I have a lot of dudes and their favorite line is, or women will tell me, I had to drag my husband here. I had to drag him here. I'm like, don't fucking drag him anywhere. Okay. But then the guys come and they're like, low key, had a great fucking night. And I'm like,
that was it.
Trevor, that's right.
But that's 100% it. So sorry to interrupt you on the cruise ship, but I was just like, that was spot on because I was that guy amongst the sea of women all dressed the exact same, ready for your show.
Well, there's apparently a lot of dudes that are coming on this cruise, and I've been telling, I don't know how many cabins we have left, but I tell these single dudes, I'm like, dude, put out the bat signal. If you're single and you're in like your mid-30s, come on this cruise. You will be swimming in hot chicks. Like,
1,000.
Living their best life.
Yeah.
Titties out, weenies out, the Heather McMahan cruise.
Yeah.
It is the go-to time.
When does it launch? When does that set sail?
In April. I will, of course, probably
like April 13th.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
all
it's
I know
right.
is we set sail on Masters Sunday, which was a huge fight that I have with my husband because we go to the Masters golf tournament every year. And I was like, honey, we can watch it from the Lido deck, okay?
So Jeff is coming on. The Italian Stallion's coming with you.
Jeff is coming on. We've got the whole crew. And I've got a bunch of other incredible comedians that are coming on too. It's just going to be I wanted it to be 4 days of just no judgment. I don't care if you have booby tassels on. I don't care if you're decked out in a full St. John suit. Like, do what you want to do. It's going to be so silly, so fun. And I was a cruising kid growing up. Like my family, we went on every cruise. Like we were sitting at the captain's table. I was drinking Shirley Temple.
We were big cruisers too.
Yeah. Cruising is like when you do it right, it can be so elite. And I remember I'm still like, I would go to the kids club on cruises as a kid and I'm still friends with all of those kids that I met, like just there's nothing better than a vacation friend. Oh, okay. So,
April 13th through 17th.
Yeah.
Where can people get tickets? And is it already for sale?
Yes, I think it's heatheratsea.com. Just check my Instagram.
And on Instagram has everything. It's the good go.
Now I might get murdered on this cruise. I have not really thought about the safety logistics of having like 2,000 fans on a cruise.
Are we bringing bodyguards? Are we just showing up?
But honestly, I'm a woman of the people. I'm going to be out there like Princess Diana kissing babies and just healing the sick. So that's what I plan to do.
One of my favorite things about you is when you were talking about the fan that got kicked out of your show, talking about when they stood up.
Yeah.
And then you saw them at the stage door and you took them to get a little, I think it was In and Out and drove them home.
Yeah.
Waffle House. And I was like, that is you to a T. That does not surprise me.whatsoever is that you would go do that.
Now your husband's coming along. He seems like involved in your career. Like he comes to shows and things like that. Does he get this world and like has he always kind of understood? Because the one thing that I thank God Sandy understands what I do, because like I'll be like, oh peace, I got to go away for a month, and then I'll come back and then I'll be like, oh wait, you're back on solo mom duty again. Now I got to leave. Like, does he understand? Like, is he good? Like, how do you guys balance all of that?
Jeff he hit the fucking jackpot. Okay. Now we don't have kids yet. So when we have kids, that will probably destroy everything that's good and wholesome about our marriage. No, he loves it. Here's the thing. The reason why I know I'm with the right man is the way I can feel him when I'm on stage. Maybe he's on the side stage or he's sitting in the audience, or I can see him at the tech booth. He loves it. And it takes a very specific type of man to, I guess, I don't even say like not be threatened, but just to really like enjoy seeing his wife up there just looking like a fucking fool, right? He loves it. I mean, his favorite thing is to watch me shine, and that's a beautiful thing. He and also the perks of the job are pretty great. Like we've gone really cool places. We toured in Australia in February, and he's playing every golf course on the entire continent. Like he gets to enjoy all the perks. He loves it.
Dream.
Now, everyone, all your fans know, everybody's obsessed with Robin. We live for Robin. She is a star.
Yeah.
It is. So my mother, she can't even listen to the podcast. It makes her a nervous freaking wreck what's going to come out of my mouth or what's going to come out of Eric's mouth, and knowing that we're going to tell stories about them. Mm-hmm. How do you keep that? Like, does she care all bars off, whatever happens at home? She doesn't care? Or is there some things where she's like, Oh gosh, Heather, don't say that. Like, do we have? Did that take a second getting used to being like, I'm just gonna let it all out there, baby, and you're in on the ride?
Well, for Robin, she, my late father used to always be like, he would like stop me in the hall as I was like leaving to go, do an acting gig. He's like, is this your dream or is your mother just pushing this on you? And I'm like, no, Dad, this is what I want to do. Don't worry. He's like, I just want to make sure this is your dream. And she's not pressuring you to go, try and be on the Broadway. No, Robin loves this shit. And also, there are parts of my life that I don't talk about, but I am also an open book. I think it's different. I think, I meet other actors and their lives are so separate. They play a character and then they're not having to do what I do on social media, which is like you said, hustle, share every aspect of your life. Yeah. When you do stand up, the only thing you can do is share your life and your point of view and your perspective and the things you've gone through. So I really don't have a choice, because
just put it all out there.
Put it all out there. And also, Robin loves this shit. When she's ever on my podcast, she will literally watch herself on YouTube and play it back for like 3 weeks straight. She's like, I've gotten so much good response at the country club. Everyone's saying they loved our episode.
Well, tell Robin she looked beautiful because the fact that you open up your Netflix special, Son I Never Had, with that skit of you and her in the beginning was the best thing I think I've ever seen in my entire life. And it started making me think like, oh, where can I incorporate my mom in something that I do? Because that was just so special and cool. And she looked gorgeous.
I think your mother would literally die.
But so here's what I want to know. Because we went and saw your show when we were in Dallas. Mm-hmm. How long ago was that?
I saw you last year. I think I saw your first tour, then your second tour. Yeah. But I think we saw her 2 years ago, and then I took my girlfriends last year.
Okay, 2 years ago. We got to go backstage. We were talking. We got to meet. And we were like, why don't you need a special? You have to have you're like, oh, I know. That's like, I'm putting that in the universe. And then it was like, next thing I know, massive Netflix special coming out. So it went from like, oh, I'm putting that in the universe to like happening. What was that process like? How did you like submit like, do you send like your stand-up to Netflix and be like, hey, I really want to do it?
Because you self-produced it, right?
Yeah. So a lot of people are doing that now because, again, we don't want to wait for these, networks to try and tell us yes or no. So I was like, I'm just going to shoot it and then we'll take it out to market. And I, and I didn't know who would want it. And then we had such a big response. And then of course I wanted my first special to go out to Netflix because I'm like, they are such a platform for stand-up. And then I just shot my second one in Atlanta in November, and that's out for sale too. So we don't know where that will land. You have to just kind of make your own shit and then ask for forgiveness later, or, in this business, especially with stand-up, if you build it, they will come. And I know in acting world and producing world, because you guys produce so much shit, like it's kind of the opposite. Like you have to plan everything out and then you have to find the financing, all this shit. I was just like, all right, we're going to take the money from the ticket sales. Let's grab a camera, let's shoot it. And then we will try and sell it later.
And then call it a day.
Yeah.
That is so. Did you see I became so familiar with you during COVID. Mm-hmm. I feel like, is that where you really just saw all of a sudden your whole life? Did it seem like it changed overnight, but then you're still stuck at home?
It was wild. I thought that the pop happened before COVID. Like that was my first big tour. So when y'all saw me in Dallas, I had started my tour. It was like the wild 2019 to 2020 was the biggest year of my life. And then I had to sit at home for a year. And then I went back out on the road and it was like even crazier. So it was odd. Like, COVID definitely served me well because I was just sitting at home making insane content. But I feel like I'm behind because I wasn't TikToking. You know what I mean? Like I'm now like, fuck, I was still Instagramming like everyone's grandma. I should have been TikToking this whole time. And now I'm playing catch up with the fucking TikToks.
And then TikTok famous. Oh, no, I think the same thing. I'm like, it is so, if I would have done a podcast when podcasts first began, I was just thinking like, I think it was like 2017. What was I doing? Like, I am so late to the game now. That's like Eric and I were like, we got to come in full force now because we are so late in this podcast game. And so much of it is comedians. Mm-hmm. Or then you have like the smart list guys and you have like the biggest A-list actors in the world doing podcasts. How did you decide, is that the hardest thing in the world, just to sit there by yourself on your podcast? Because I know you do have guests. Yeah. But to do, I think the last episode I listened to was like an hour and 15 minutes. By yourself.
We had Claudia Oshry and her husband Ben on, and we were talking to her, and she's got the toast, and she's an amazing podcaster, and she's like, you couldn't pay me to sit and do a solo podcast. She's like, I have so much respect for people that can sit and do that and have that sort of skill. And I mean, I thought the exact same thing, but I was like, then I started listening to yours and I was like, holy shit, what do you...
It's psychotic, though. I mean, what I do is psychotic. Honestly, this is the way, and I've kind of like worked out through therapy. The podcast should just be an hour that I pay my therapist. But instead, I record this just hour-long soliloquy, if you will, and then I put it out into the ethosphere for every single person to be able to listen to my shit and my rants and my bullshit. And I'm like, so I sometimes listen back to the episodes for quality control. And Sadie, I'm talking the episode that you listened to last week where I had a mental breakdown in the middle of the podcast. So I've got my weed vest on. I'm walking in my neighborhood, getting my steps in. And I'm like, let me just listen to this episode because I've gotten a lot of DMs from people about this episode. And I had forgotten, like I black out. I totally forgot that I had started hysterically crying in the middle of the episode. And I'm like, why does anybody listen to this shit? This is insane.
No, it's because you're so funny and all of a sudden we go quiet. And then you start to hear the sniffles. And then I'm bawling. And then it's like, by the time I start to cry, you're done. You're past it. We're over that chapter closed. We have moved on. But it's so real. It's so girls. I feel like we are slightly, I mean, it's hard to say, but I'm slightly psychotic. Like I will go from one extreme to the other and then I'm over it. And then I fully scarred Eric.
That's the thing. Then I'm over it. It is, I leave it all on the table for that 1 hour and then I'm over it. And then we're good. I will say the podcast, here's the thing. It always started off as a solo venture and people call in with their voicemails of absolutely not. That's the whole gist of the damn podcast. But then I started interviewing some other people, but I'll tell you what, having a guest, it's not that I don't want to chat with people. I find that I love having that human connection, but trying to deal with people's publicists and managers and agents, I'm like, fucking kill me. Either we're friends and you want to come on, but if I got to call your manager 16 times to find out where you are, I'm over it.
Well, let me tell you, your team is the nicest, best team. Obsessed with them. One of them's on here. We love y'all. You are amazing. No, well, okay, I'm going to ask you a personal question and you don't have to respond to it at all and we can cut. Because this is something I feel like definitely as a working woman and it's very hard. I know we got baby girl on ice.
Wait, what?
I have a baby girl embryo on ice.
On ice.
Oh,
and again,
got it. Yes.
There's something that I should not have publicly probably shared, but I did.
Okay.
No, but it is so vulnerable because I remember thinking I'd first gotten my first big gig and I got pregnant and I didn't tell my agents. I was and literally until I was 9 months pregnant, I didn't tell them because it's so scary and vulnerable as a working woman. Then also like adding IVF into something like, okay, my hormones, this is a priority right now, how people feel about breastfeeding. Has that been such a wild journey for you? Especially because I never even thought about having kids until my 30s. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, we're here, but my career is happening. And so it's such a mind fuck.
Yeah. I mean, it is such a wild struggle and it's twofold. Like I have some gals that come up to me and they're like, a baby would look good on you. And I'm like, shut the fuck up, Cheryl. Like you have no idea what I've been through. And on the other end of it, I drive to a public supermarket and just buy a Plan B because I'm panicked, you know?
Always. No, it is such a mind fuck.
It's a mind fuck and it's hard. Like I'm turning 38 next year. And it's only recent that women in the industry have started to share their actual age. But I'm like, yeah, I'm turning 38. My mom had me at 40. I was a cooked egg. Obviously, that's why I'm in stand-up comedy. But I know like the clock is ticking. I have to get on it. And I will most likely have to do another round of IVF and juice my body up. But then I think, you know, I'm always a year ahead or 9 months ahead, actually, because of touring and, you know, other things. And, you know, if you have a movie coming up, well, if they hired you and you weren't pregnant, then you show up pregnant, they're like, what the fuck? You know?
They nowadays have to say it's acceptable, but you know, all the producers behind your back are like, oh, God damn it. Now she's pregnant. And like, but they'll try to hide it.
It's at a house and home at craft services.
It is. And I know that is so horrible. There's nothing worse for people to ask that. But I love that about you. You were able to share that because especially being a working woman in our 30s, it's something we have to think about all the time.
You know who told me to have a baby? My financial advisor, who is essentially, shout out to Scott, who is my essential, he's my dad. Since my dad has passed, this is the only man that I really trust. Him and my attorney. I'm like, I trust you guys with my life. Scott's like, Heather, have a baby. He's like, you imagine the material you're going to get. He's like, you already want to be a mom. Don't worry about like the next gig. But for the last 6 years, like I've been on and off with these TV show deals, trying to, think we're shooting a pilot and doing all this shit. But after the cruise next year, I think I just got to let it rip.
And rock and roll, baby. And just have some. Oh, yes. Let me tell you, you will have some material. I can't even fathom. It is so wild. Well, I was so proud of you to share that because it is so vulnerable. But it makes somebody, I remember the first time, because us Southern women, we put on such a facade. You always say, everything's wonderful. We are great. We are always smiling. And I remember the first time I shared, my son was super sick. And I got on anxiety medication. I mean, I was just in a dark, dark hole. And I got more responses like that from everybody than I ever had my entire life. And I was like, okay, maybe there is something about sharing actually what is going on. And that's why we started this podcast. Because I was like, it really was the glamour. Eric was filming 1883. Yeah. We had the most money we've ever had. He's working. It was the worst time in my fucking life. You couldn't pay me to go back.
Because of how sick our son was, and so much was happening at home.
It was horrible.
While so much great was happening outside of home. So it's just like the juxtaposition of that was like almost.
And you're having this moment in your career, like, and you want to be present and absorb it and like have this, glamorous moment. Meanwhile, they yell cut and you're like probably panicking about what's going on with your family.
Oh, 100%. He was doing the Yellowstone premiere and on the red carpet, and Mick was in the ICU.
Oh, I'm hosting the premiere. So they flew me up there to be the host of the carpet because they thought it'd be fun to have somebody from the universe to, and I've done some hosting. And so, I'm like in the middle of interviewing, the leads, and Sandy's texting me like, we're in the ICU.
We're maybe going on a ventilator.
We're maybe going to have to go on a ventilator. And I'm like, at any second, I'm going to have to tell everyone on this carpet, I have to get on a plane to get back home. Yeah. So it's just like, I pray, somehow the videos looked okay of the interviewing and stuff, but like the panic that was going through my mind during all that. And it's just like, how do you freaking juggle the career and the glamour while all of like so much other stuff is not being talked about, not being seen, and that you're trying to struggle with at the same time. And this has been such therapy for us doing this podcast, bringing us not only together and, have a creative outlet together, but like to talk about like all the crazy shit how we do figure it out. And there are so many parents.
The show must go on.
The show must go on.
And my husband and I talk about all the time, like when my career just popped off, we were living in our apartment in New York. It was like 2019, right before the pandemic. And it was such an idyllic time in our life. We just started making money. Like we were like, oh my God, we like can be comfortable. And everything was just, it was like, we were at the base of the roller coaster and it was starting to go up. And then when everybody saw me playing these huge venues and all these big moments, it was probably one of the most stressful times of my life because the pressure was on. And then people didn't realize I've got employees that I got to make sure I can keep the lights on for, and other people are relying me. And I've got agents who are like, you're only as good as your next gig or your last gig. And listen, pressure is a privilege. I do believe that. But there were times where Jeff and I will still sometimes, when we're on a date night, he's like, remember how like we didn't have a care in the fucking world in 2019? I'm like, yeah. And then the real world hit.
Oh my, yeah. When you have people emailing you nonstop, you're like, okay, now it's go time. Now this is real. Or even like, has it been interesting to you? It was hard for me is when people... I had to go to therapy when I first met Eric because I was a musical theater actress and he was in television film and he was doing All My Children and he was fake having sex and I was
like a long running romantic relationship on a TV series.
And I was like, what the fuck?
She had no concept
he's cheating
of that.
on me every day. Here I am, putting on the Ritz, and he's going to have affairs, affairs on television. And then it was like, I got through that part as like the industry. And then I remember starting to do this podcast. I was like, okay, I remember turning to Eric and being like, are we really going to do this? Because you allow people to say negative. And it's so interesting when you're then, actors, you can hide behind a character.
Right.
So if you're saying something negative about me, it's not about me. It's a character. Right. It's my voice. It's my actor. Yeah.
Well, didn't work out for Blake Lively, but yes.
Yeah, no kidding. Right. Oh, Blake. But now I'm like, you're putting yourself out, you're talking about me. Is that been such an interesting, does that phase you at all anymore? You're just like, fuck it, they don't really know who I am. Or did it take a second to learn how to navigate like that social media
I will say
part of it?
It is wild how brazen some people can be.
Wow.
When I get DMs and people have very strong feelings or opinions on like my physical looks, I'll have women DM me about my husband's beard, and they're like, like he needs to shave his beard, and I'm like, suck my dick, Carol. Like I will respond. It is interesting. The internet, though, I think is just a dark and demonic place, right?
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
And I have to take everything with a grain of salt. There's something that I've shared and somebody doesn't agree with it, like whatever. Everyone's got a fucking opinion. Deep eye roll, right? But it is it has been interesting. I'm like, say whatever you want about me. Pick me apart. Honey, there was a Reddit thread just about like my eyelash extensions one time. I was bullied. They were like, these look terrible. And I look back on that and I was like, wow, you're right. These are too much. I will say with that. But I will cut somebody to the bone if they come for anybody like my husband, my mom. Because yes, while they are in my atmosphere and I put them out there, they're not the main character, you know?
Totally. Talk about, I remember our sweet little neighbor girl, she's 17 and she babysits our kids. And she told her mom she really doesn't like that we talk about our kids on the podcast.
Okay.
Because we share the good, the
bad,
crazy,
ugly,
when they're acting a fool, and we have to talk about it. And our babysitter's like, but they're perfect kids. You can't put that out there. They are perfect.
And I was like, oh my gosh, yes they are, but maybe this is more realistic to everybody. Okay, now speaking of doing like podcast, you interview on the red carpets. Has there ever been
a new gig?
You did the Oscars, right?
So I was on the fashion panel for the Oscars.
Okay,
but I got invited to the Vanity Fair Oscar party afterwards. And let me tell you something. That was the most out-of-body experience I've ever had. Like you're in a room with Jeff Bezos, the Kardashians, Steven Spielberg, Serena Williams. Like it was just, and I didn't get a +1. So I went from doing the red carpet for the fashion panel for the Oscars to then like being at this after party. And I'm like, what is happening? It was wild. But sorry,
continue. Be my friend. Now, who was your very favorite? Did you fangirl, like die over? There's certain people where I could like talk to. I'm like, oh, we'd be best friends. And then someone like I couldn't even speak to you.
Here's the thing. It was so different. I started with the Emmys. That was my first gig. I was so nervous. And what people don't realize is I have to learn so much material for those interview questions. I have it on a card, but you have to study like 100 or so actors, directors, producers that you may interview. And then you're standing on the red carpet. There's their publicist trying to fight with the network to get a spot. You don't, and you doing that kind of live television interview. And I'd had a little bit of practice from doing the Today Show, but the Today Show is not even as rushed as this. You may have 30 seconds and you got to ask this actor, their feelings about being nominated for the first time. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. There was so much stuff to memorize. It was so different from the Emmys to the Grammys. Actors at the Emmys, they know what they're doing. They have the questions ready. They've done interviews before. It was like a well-oiled machine. The Grammys, these are musicians. They could be high on mushrooms.
I was going to say, do you get the people that are just like, you can't even talk to them? Like, how do you navigate that?
Oh, yeah. Or just, and then some of those didn't air. You've got some of the rappers who are just so high and you're like, cool. Thank you. And I love that shit. I'm a comedian, so I'm like, give me the wild. And then at the Oscars, it was such a small pool of actors that are getting interviewed. And then I was there to like talk about fashion. Well, I want a Joan Rivers style, let it rip. And I still had to play nice. So, every red carpet was a different experience. But I'm doing the Emmys in September. I don't think they've announced it, but whatever, let it rip. My publicist can pull it back. So I'm doing that again. And I'm already getting like a stack of the nominees.
Oh my
I'm like,
God.
shit, this is like studying for the SATs. Like it's a lot of material.
Do you ever get nervous you're going to pronounce somebody's name wrong? Like even if
every time. It's
my worst. In voiceovers, I always like Google pronounce just hoping I get it right, like over and over and over.
And of course, you obviously have done all this research. You want to be so respectful to the actors. These are my peers. I'm hoping I can work with them. But you also have a producer talking in your ear like 30 seconds, 10 seconds, get to the last question. And so it is a real mind fuck. I will say doing stand-up, I do think ADHD, my crippling attention deficit disorder, has served me well because I'm allowed to like ping pong around in my brain. But it is pretty wild. It's a wild thing to be on live television like that.
Oh, I can't. I remember seeing, what was her name? Juliana, and like those binders of everything she would study all the time.
I had a
and I was
binder.
like, yeah, it's bonkers.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly is the craziest. And you just pray they're nice. That would be my biggest thing is.
Everyone asked me, they're like, tell us the tea. Who was terrible? I got to be honest with you. Everyone's pretty much on their best behavior because we're also on the red carpet at like 3:00 in the afternoon. But if I had to interview people after the award show, it may be a different story.
I'd want to tune in for those. That would be.
Me too. It's like
when they're drunk and over it and like actually telling you how they feel. That would be a phenomenal episode.
That's, I feel like, the first thing people ask us, how's this person in real life?
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes you're just like, oh, if you only knew what they're actually like. You're like, God damn it, they're the worst. But you can't say it. You're like, because then it takes away their imagination of what you wanted them to be. Because there's nothing.
If I could really spill the tea, especially with like comics, if I could really, I mean, for the most part, people are great. But if I could really just let it rip on who the assholes are, oh my God, it would destroy my career.
Oh, I can't even imagine. And do you feel like there's so much pressure being a female like comedian around all of these men all the time? Because it does seem it was like a bros club. I love it. I feel like you have you and Fortune, all these big comedians, female comedians. We
were all just kind of like gathered together, if you will. Netflix has this big Netflix is a Joke comedy festival for a lot of their talent. So we were all at Ted Sarando's house, who runs Netflix. We were at his house for this brunch. And it was so funny to watch the guys work the room and like they're all in the good old boys club. They're all helping each other. So Whitney Cummings comes up to me and then Chelsea Handler, and literally we were like, so when are we going to do what they've done? Which is they figured it out. They all just help each other do their shit. But for the longest time, there was only room for one girl on the roster, one girl in the lineup for the evening. So people like to say that women are mean to each other. No, we were all just trying to get our foot in the door. And
Amen.
Has changed. Now I think, women have definitely, we're having more opportunities. But it was funny. We were all just kind of standing around like, these guys suck. Like we gotta band together and like do what they've done. They all do festivals together. They're all, going on each other's podcasts. Like we have to like work smarter, not harder together.
Yes. And I feel like female comedians, you can't just be a comedian. You have to be writing your own shows. You got to have a podcast. You got to be starring on a series. It seems like
that's comedy in general. I won't even say that that's specific just to men or women. It's if you don't have your hand in 16 different ventures right now, you're not going to make it. I've been doing the podcast for 5 years, and there are days, but then I've also got to do the branding, and we got to write the book, and I'm doing the TV shows and the tour. Like it's like if you don't wear 65 different hats, you're not going to do it. I'm always jealous of my actor friends, where I'm like, y'all just go to set. You shoot something for 3 months and that's it. Like,
No, I can't even.
And I know it's not easy. I know that they're doing a million things behind the scenes, but you're not constantly feeling like you have to like pimp yourself out.
Oh, that's what I always think with him. I always say you're on vacation. Like, even though it's work, I'm like, you are fully on vacation. The moment you get back, you better work your ass off with me. Because I'm like, you have enjoyed yourself. I was like, we all know. He's like, no, Sandy, it's so hard. Like, you're in your head. I'm like, no, I know y'all are in y'all's trailer. And everyone's pampering on you. I'm like, you do like one scene like 6 times in a day, and that's it. Like, meanwhile, I'm wiping asses,
if
and
I
I'm
like live in the world of like dark, intense dramas, I wouldn't feel so emotionally and physically drained at the end of every single day. It's truly, it does take it out of you. It seems so glamorous and so like, oh yeah, you're getting pampered, which you are. Like, you can't deny that. But it's also so insanely mentally draining that it's like, I'd rather run a marathon than some days like.
Such an actor.
Shut up. Shut up. All right, we're moving on.
I don't get it. I don't get asked to audition for enough dramas. I hear you though, because I don't even like to, I'm not even confrontational. So if I had to like do a drama, I'd be like throwing up in the back, just like, this is too much for my Pisces heart. I can't handle it. But I do think I'm like, I call the agents after this and be like, put me up for more dramas. Because all comedians are dramatic as fuck.
Oh, and they're the best, like dramatic actors are always comedians.
And comedians can do drama, but dramatic actors cannot do comedy.
No way.
You can't. You can't learn it. you can maybe dip your toe in it, but our best comedians ever have done the most insane dramatic work, but you'll never see like Leonardo DiCaprio go do a multicam sitcom. Like it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Can you fathom?
No.
What do you do? What do you do to like get in the zone? Are you like method acting? Are you doing Stanislavski? Like, what do you do to really get the waterworks going?
See, that's a great question. I mean, I have to immerse myself in the world.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, even as simple as like watching every movie in that same genre before I get to set to like just feel it out, depending on what I do. I do a lot of period stuff these days. So it's like, a lot of that old school, just whatever I can do, reading books or not reading books, but like stories and online articles and movies.
You're very method.
But
do you have like right before, if you're sitting in your trailer and you have to go do this dramatic scene, someone's dying, you're crying. Do you have like a really sad Spotify playlist where it's just like Metallica, like everything matters? You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. No. Sometimes 100%. Sometimes 100%. Like I will walk up with the earbuds in and like in that song, in that like depression of like, I don't know, Bright Eyes or something that just makes you want to cut your wrists, like whatever that may be, that has helped. I feel like every movie is like a little bit different. Like the technique kind of changes a little bit. But it's the worst day of my life leading up to that moment. Like I can't, like there are some actors that can like, they're out hanging out at craft service, talking, chatting on a really intense shooting day and go and just turn it on. I am not that person. For me, I gotta rev my engines.
We live it. We all live it as a family. We have like, I always
get trying to watch Paw Patrol. Corner just like, No,
it is so true. I'll never forget, like we were really immersed in the Western scene. And I was like, if I see one more fucking cowboy hat, I'm going to blow my brains out. And I'll never forget, he came down in a off-white tracksuit. And I was like, oh, Daddy's back. Daddy got a new audition. What are we doing? I was like,
Tony Soprano-esque,
and right now it's all, we were a cop, and so we had a mustache. And you know how cops kind of walk, and I'm like, oh my God.
She's so overseeing it, like in the house. Like
it's so hard for me sometimes. I'm like,
have you ever been intimate as one of your characters?
That's a great question. Probably
not sober.
Not
probably on a few goodies back in the day.
Not verbally, like, hey, honey, this is this is what's happening right now.
But it definitely affects.
You're getting this guy.
Affects like if you're playing like 1883, it was a lot frailer of an intimate because he was so hungry.
Yeah.
So like the things that usually would be happening weren't happening at that time because it was
foreplay was just you going through like a top.
I was pregnant,
menu
so I was like, yes, I literally could he could bounce off of me. So kind of depending, like I love when he's like getting buff. I'm like, oh, I'm so small. Yeah. But we're 1883. I was a house. And he was so small. So I think that's where it's always like weight affected.
But that's kind of fun to think about though. Like actually like,
we're going to do that right after.
Role play and I'm like letting you in on like Officer Patterneck's here tonight. Like what's going to go down? It's never been verbalized, but it's been up there.
No, and I do need to know what would be, I feel like actors, they always say like your 5-year plan. And I always hate that shit because I'm like, is there something where you would feel like, okay, I did it. Like this is the pinnacle for me. Is because we all have what we want and goals and things like that. Is there something that kind of feel like if it all would end tomorrow, I would say I did it?
As a viewer, to answer that question for her, I'm like, to get a Netflix special to me
everything you've ever
was
done.
Like the pinnacle. But I would love to hear from somebody who's now done that and has so much more to go.
Well, no, I mean, for me, I was an actor first, and I think that is the one thing where I really haven't checked off that box yet. I've done small things here or there, but I've sold 2 TV shows. I'm hopefully selling this 3rd one. We just got a yes last week, but to get something made and on the air though, near impossible. So, and this next project is not me playing myself. It's totally me playing a character. So I would love just to get like a season under my belt where I get to play someone. That for me to have that series of work would just be amazing. And also to host SNL. I think, on my 5-year vision board, not a lot of women play Madison Square Garden. I've done Radio City. I'd love to stay in the family and be able to play Madison Square Garden. I would love to have my TV show up. I'd love to say, stick around. We'll be right back on SNL and do that opening monologue. I think if I were to host SNL, you wouldn't see me for a year. I would just be in the Turks and Caicos replaying the tape every day.
I'd be done. I'm like, baby, Jeff, it's your turn. I am retired.
What kind of sitcom would you like is on the air or has been that you'd be like, oh, that kind of role or that kind of show would be like, I would love?
Well, so I not to give anything away, but like influences for me in my life with television. And I don't know if y'all remember this show, but there was a show called Designing Women. And it was, you remember, it was about like Suzanne Sugarbaker and Dixie Carter and all those girls. Like that to me is playing those really strong Southern women that were funny, smart, that kind of, were ahead of their time. For me, and you guys are from the South, for me, I can't stand watching these Southern tropes on television because it is just, they miss the mark every time. So I was always influenced by Designing Women. But I'd also like to do something like super hard, like a hard, funny show, like an Eastbound and Down, Righteous Gemstones, where I can be that character and say whatever the fuck I want. That's the new show that we're taking out right now is a mix of those two without giving too much away. But fingers crossed.
Oh, it's gonna happen. I feel it. And the last time we were with you and talked to you, the Netflix special happened.
Right.
So I feel like it's good luck. I feel like we might be your like good luck charm.
And are
sister.
you like are you show running? Are you like trying to show run on this or?
Well, so no, I mean, executive produce, but I've learned in this game, hire somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing. So we would, find another showrunner. I've been paired up with, Dan Levy and Kathleen Jordan. Like I've been teamed up with incredible people. So I just know, let the real people do it. Not
totally.
Me,
and we like to end each episode with your glamour and your grit.
Okay.
So like it could be as simple as your day glamour or like something just shitty is your grit. Ours changes every episode. What is your glamour and grit?
My glamour. Okay, let me think. Hold on. Give me 30 seconds. I
know to put you on the spot.
No, I love this. So is this something that like brings me joy or is it something that's actually
like what's your glamour and grit right now? Saint, you start.
Oh my, that I didn't gain too much weight on vacation. We just landed from Minnesota last night at 12. And that like the connection worked. Like on the Zoom. Like you're always so nervous right before a Zoom. You're like, please, like let us hear them, let it not break up.
So that's your glam.
That's my glam.
That's what's good happening right now. What's your grit?
Oh God, that we like start school tomorrow. Molly Morgan starts school tomorrow. So I got to get up really early and like get myself ready before school. So like it could be as simple as that.
Yeah, I hear you. So my glamour right now is before I go to bed, I've started this thing where I make my husband say 3 nice things about me. And I do the same for him. And last night, like I'm a comic. So we're just dragging on each other all day in like a very, sarcastic way. But last night he was like, Heather, one of the 3 things that he said was, you're very persistent. And I was like, is that good? And he was like, yes. If somebody tells you no, you're going to find a yes. And that really motivated me last night. I was like, all right, we're going to keep going. Like we're not going to take no for an answer. So my glamour is him being my rock and like always being so encouraging. My grit right now is I'm in this insane HOA in our neighborhood. It's crazy, y'all. And it's a bunch of really cool women with younger kids have moved into the neighborhood. And we had this tyrant of a HOA board president. Oh. And we had a little skerfuffle this week. Some cars got broken into. And when I am on this group chat, and yesterday I've never had more material in my life. These women, you take 40 women who are probably all on Adderall, you give them, some timestamps, some Ring camera footage, and I'm out doing my walk yesterday. We got the cops rolling up, interviewing people. I was like, just the power of women in an absolute HOA group text is amazing. No Karens allowed. Like real women just getting shit done. God. It makes me laugh so hard in the best way. So it's technically a grit, but it's also kind of a glamour.
Oh,
too.
Amazing. Women can solve any crime.
That could be a great show.
So that's HOA, the series coming HOA, to NBC. Baby.
Yeah. Well, and how about yours?
Mine. I'm still like glamour from this weekend. My brother proposed, and so that's what we were in Minnesota for. So I got to be a part of it, and I handed him the ring as he went. Like it just was so special. And my grit is just I'm about to go leave for a month, and so I'm just like in the final week of like soaking in the kids and the family before like going and losing my mind in the best of ways, but like you know going there for into Montana for a month.
Sister, I literally cannot. You are, I think, the entire world of you. I mean, I'm not even kidding.
I feel the same way about y'all. I really do, because you know it's tough in this business, and when you meet wonderful people, you have to cherish them. So I really do adore you. I mean,
you are so amazing, and I just. You're going to win an Oscar one day. You're going to host the Emmys one day. I mean, everything that you want will happen. I know it will. I mean, you are spectacular. You are one of the most special people on this earth. And thank you for making us all feel like we are one of you.
Well, thank you for the much needed ego boost, because I am sure I'm going to leave this office and then my mom's going to be yelling at me about something and my husband's going to be like, you spend so much money on the credit card. So, you know, I keep it's very humble at home.
Keeps it humble.
A boost.
That's great. Well, everyone else, if you haven't seen her live and you want to, go watch her Netflix special, Son I Never Had.
It's so the best, fucking funny.
Best 90 minutes of your entire life. And thank you so much for being here.
You guys, thank you.
Can't wait to see what comes out next.
We love you so much.
Stay tuned. Maybe it's a porno. I don't know.
Oh, wait. And last question. Are you Chick-fil-A or Bojangles?
Oh, Chick-fil-A all day. All day. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Get one.
Those are just my two, like, I go back and forth, so I'm always curious for somebody from different parts of the South.
Bojangles breakfast is pretty much superior, but a Chick-fil-A all day. I'm an Atlanta girl. Like Truett Cathy spoke at my high school graduation. Chick-fil-A all day.
Oh, okay.
Let's go.
Yeah. That's done. Then.
Oh my gosh, I love you, sister. Thank you.
Love y'all.
Rest of your week. Thanks, Heather.
Glamour
Grit.
Glamour
Grit.